love speaking about Awaken Your Age Potential. It's such a hopeful, empowering message. Like Ingrid did say, Nadia will be speaking after me, and that is going to be a really delight for you because she always adds a very unique perspective to what age potential is all about. So I'm so grateful to have Nadia here with me today. So anyway, I am a gerontologist. I have dual expertise in aging and wellness, and it was my time among the thriving older adult population that really drew me into this work. It really changed the way I thought, the way I live. The older adults who are thriving are people who are amazing people. And what they've taught me is that it's not in our genes, but in things that we have influence and control over that really dictate how we live and how we grow older. So I'm here really to share with you a very hopeful, empowering message, and it's called Age Potential. But more importantly, not only as a gerontologist and a researcher, I'm here as one of you, as a fellow sojourner of life, asking some of the same questions you probably are. Like, what does it mean to grow older? Why are some people thriving and others merely surviving? How is it that we live and live abundantly, a passion-centered life? How does that come to be? Those were just a few of the questions that really drew me into this work and writing the book. And so I would like you to, we're in this together, and I ask you to join me to step up and move out of being in the norm, in status quo, and really step into the possibility of becoming a thriver, to really join a new generation of thrivers instead of just merely surviving. And so before I start, I really want you to open up your mind and open up your heart to a new vision and a new way of thinking, because that's what age potential is all about. I want to start first about, so many people ask me, Lori, what is it that you want people to awaken to? Well, the same thing I was awakened to. First and foremost is that we all have, that the reality of aging, like this type of experience, thriving, is a possibility for us all. And the hard research says that, and the thrivers are actually living it out. And I'm just going to, for brief time's sake, I'm just going to go over 3 basic research concepts that are proving this. One is called the new science of epigenetics, and that science has told us that we have control of how our genes play out. It does not say that we can change our genetic coding, but that we can actually influence how our genes play out, either towards disease and illness or towards prevention and delay. And the control that we have down to the cellular level are through things like our perception like distress or a situation that it comes into your life, your thoughts, your belief system, and your lifestyle choices. And guess what? All those things I named are learnable skills. So we have a lot of influence and control of how we age. The second point under the research would be a renowned psychologist out of Stanford, and her name is Carol Dweck. She has studied for decades about the mindset, and what her research shows is that there are 2 types of mindsets, either a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. And as you know, most of the thrivers reside in the growth, and that's where living out our possibilities lie. And for time's sake, I'm not going to go through details, but I find this very interesting. It came from her book, and if you just want to, it shows the differentiation between the 2. And the empowering thing about that is we can learn to be in the growth mindset. It's not like we are one or the other. We can choose to take on that new mindset if we choose. And finally, the third one is the CDC, the Center for Disease Control. They actually came out with a bold statement like 3 to 5 years ago that because of their research and what they know, they came out with a statement that says chronic disease, illness, and disability are not inevitable consequences of aging. In fact, they can be delayed and prevented. So we have, as a society, really have bought into a myth, because the research is showing that, and like I said, the thrivers are living it out. And you will hear from Nadia shortly through her life story. So we know that aging is a very normal part of life, but there's no normal curve to aging. It's a very unique path. And if you're like me, I like that, because guess what? I don't like to be put in a box. So age potential is all about embracing your uniqueness and living that out to the fullest. So it is a unique path, but there are some commonalities. And if you haven't had a chance to read the book, there are 4 that came out of my research that actually align with a lot of the national and international aging research. And those 4 points will be covered by Nadia today. And for time's sake, I'm not even going to go over them, but one of them is they question limiting beliefs. And that's the one I'm going to expound on right now with you, because I really believe the mind-body connection is the key, the missing link in our common dialogue around aging, the missing link that the media is not talking about, and the missing link that the traditional medical community is not addressing. Like I said, aging begins in the mind, and we have this mind-body connection, so our bodies actually follow the lead of our mind. And because most of us have bought into this myth that it's an inevitable decline to disease, disability, and depression, I really felt it important to coin a new phrase, to get our thinking different. So I coined a new phrase called age potential. Think aging, think potential. Because if we really count on age as a series of losses, guess what? We miss all the gains that come with age. And you guys know that. So we need to really shift our thinking. So our mind can either work for us or against us. And the 2 things that really key into that is our past programming and our current day thinking. So our past programming really comes from our subconscious. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but 95% of how we live and think and what drives us is from our subconscious. That's pretty shocking. So, and guess what? That programming, basically all the scientists and research tell us that programming is done from birth up to 6 years old. So a lot of those belief systems were not consciously taken on. So, as you know, that we've been socialized how to age. We live in a youth-obsessed world. So, believe it or not, we all have ageist views, and we have some work to do. Because guess what? Neuroscience tells us whatever we focus on, we create. So if we're going to focus on fear and dread and disease, guess what the mind hears, and the body follows. So we need to address our limiting beliefs. And what is a limiting belief? A limiting belief is something that you believe that is true for you, either on a conscious or a subconscious level, or both. And most of all, it becomes an invisible obstacle to you living the life of your dreams, or what you truly desire. It's called, a lot of times we know it as self-sabotage. Those come from the subconscious. We know consciously we want to make changes, but how many times do we find ourselves self-sabotaging? That comes from our subconscious limiting beliefs. And not only that, but often these beliefs are not beliefs that you have taken on consciously for yourself. They've been programmed. By 6 years old, by family, community, church, teachers, observation, so be it. We've all been programmed, indirectly and directly. So, what do we need to do? We must transform our inner critic, what I call the inner dialogue, like our self-talk, into an inner coach. So instead of letting those limiting beliefs bring us down and confine us, we have to turn our inner critic into an inner coach that can open the doors into possibilities. And how do we do this? Well, we have to address those stereotypic beliefs, don't we? And to do that, we must develop a routine life of reflection, question, and redirection. So we need to question what we believe and why we believe it, reflect on it, and then redirect it. Because if you think about it, all the beliefs that you have, how often do we even get encouraged to think about what we believe in and why we believe in them? That's one of the things that I really saw profoundly in the research and among the thriving. They're maverick thinkers. They know what they believe in and why. They're not rebellious people. They just own what they do. You know, they own their life. They own their belief system. And if something doesn't align with where they are at their point of life, they root it out and align and take on a new belief that serves them at this present moment. So I want you to think about this. If I asked you today to take 10 minutes, and then from here on in, 10 minutes every day, and just think about feeling sick, having a chronic disease, being disabled, being hopeless, you'd say, Lori, why do you want to do that? We know on a conscious level that's a self-defeating practice. Well, guess what? We kind of are all doing that. Because guess what? During our day, don't we find ourselves worrying, fearing, dreading? It's the same thing, but we're not conscious of it. But it has the same devastating effects. So if you hear anything from me today, I hope it's that you know that this piece is the missing link, and that's why we're not raising up more thrivers. Diet and exercise are huge, but mindset is where it starts. So we have to address our patterns of thinking and our beliefs, and we can't take that lightly. Because like once again, I said, we've been socialized how to age, and most of our beliefs come from when we were young. And I want to share a story that I think really just symbolizes this concept. Think of the life of an elephant. How many of you have seen a baby elephant or a young elephant? I have. Well, even a young elephant is a fairly large animal. They are. They're pretty strong, and guess what? They're feisty. I've read interviews from trainers, and those young elephants, guess what? They try to get off their chain because they're chained to a pole as they're being trained. And they try to exert their power and feistiness. They really believe there's more out there in life they want to go get, and they're trying to get off. And anyway, over time, they kind of just give up. Well, then within a year and a half to 2 years, guess what? We have an adult elephant. Probably 3 times in tonnage. I mean, the elephant is one of the largest, most strongest animals we have. Guess what? As an adult elephant, the elephant doesn't even try to get away. The trainers have said this, you guys. How silly. They're so strong. Not only could they break the chain, but they could pull the pole out. But guess what? They've been socialized. They've been conditioned when they were young. But guess what? As an adult elephant, he's wiser, or he or she is wiser, stronger, you know, more to live, but doesn't question it. Just says, well, I guess, you know, just gives up, doesn't even try. Aren't we a lot like that? If we had an experience when we were younger, consciously or unconsciously, whatever we believed, we just leave it at that. We don't question it. We don't say, wow, but we're different now, and why not? Is that really true? Is that true for me? How do I know until I try? So the future of your success, anybody's success, my success, your success, it really lies in our routine, in habits. Nobody chooses their future, but we choose our habits, right? So, and then our habits determine our future. So if there's a habit that I would challenge you today on really looking at, how you think. It's how you think. So my challenge to you today is to really go home and do a mind cleanse. And I do a whole session on just mind cleansing. And I think it's a beautiful, beautiful process. I've done it and I continue to do it throughout my life. But what I would do is just, one thing you can start to do, part of this mind cleanse, is just be more mindful. And to be more mindful, you're more intentional. Put your thought energy on what you say to yourself. How you respond in certain, do you feel intimidated by younger people? Do you feel inadequate? And if so, why? What's the difference? Don't they have a lot of talents and gifts? But then don't you, in different ways? It's just different. We start comparing and making it a positive or negative when really it's a neutral. So just be more intentional and then write them down over a month's time. Don't judge them. Don't be hard on yourself. And then what I would do is in the back end of your journaling, I would think, put yourself one day, just quiet yourself and pretend this is a heaven on earth. And then dream what your second, wherever you are, in whatever age you are at right now, and the next 50 years from here, if it could be heaven and earth with no limitations, what kind of life, what would your life look like? How would it feel? What would you do? What's there left to do? All kinds of things. And dream. And then I would reframe your beliefs to align with that. Whatever you want to do. Something that you've always dreamt of, but you felt you're too old, or it's not the right time, I should have did it when I was younger, that's only young people do that, whatever it may be. And then align those two things. Another thing I would do is ask you to go on a radical diet. And I'm not talking about food. I'm really asking you to abstain from using your age as an excuse or a limitation. Because guess what? It's not. It's really not. We are pure potential at every age and every stage, but we have to believe it. We cannot begin to create or live a life of thriving until we first believe it for ourselves. For our own self. So not only intellectually, but emotionally. So that means really feel it. What would it feel to be alive, to live in your passion, to do what you really want to do, express yourself as you want to express yourself. And then lastly, I would really recommend that you take on the Age Potential mantra. And the mantra is this: I can, I will, I choose to create an extraordinary aging experience, whatever that means for you. And most importantly, really harness the power that you have in your mind-body connection and align where you want your body to go. And get your mind on board so it knows where you're going. Give it a compelling future, something that excites you, something that stokes you. Dream, set goals, get outside your comfort zone and expect to maintain health, vitality, and purposefulness. And most importantly, expect to thrive, and you will. Thank you. It is with great pleasure that I introduce Nadia Giordana. She is one of my 10 profile thrivers. For those of you who haven't had a chance to read the book, I have 10 contributing thrivers, and their ages from 50 all the way up into their 90s within the book. And Nadia Giordana is here today, and she's an author and a lifestyle strategist. She helps women in midlife find the inspiration to resurrect their sideline dreams and go out and do some of the things they always said they wanted to do. So you're going to hear an exciting life story, and what I want you to pay attention to is thrivers always have this canny way of really capitalizing on what they can do versus what they can't do. Here's Nadia.
Thank you, Laurie. Hi, I'm Nadia Giordana, and as Laurie mentioned, I'm an author, mentor, and a lifestyle strategist. I'm so proud and excited to be one of the thrivers mentioned in Laurie's book. And when it came out, I read it cover to cover. for a number of reasons, not just because I was in the book myself. I wanted to learn what it was that some of these other thrivers were doing to make their lives successful. And I wanted to clarify and validate for my own self what it was that I had been doing that has been working so well for me. In the book, Lori talks about the 4 important characteristics often displayed in the lives of thrivers. It's not the easiest thing to look inside oneself in that way, but I took some time to think about the 4 characteristics and the role they played in my life. The first one demonstrates personal responsibility. It is true, I was taught at an early age to take responsibility for my actions. I do believe I've managed to do that as I've made my way through this gauntlet we call life. It hasn't been easy, but I don't expect anyone else to make life easier for me, or to be responsible for my happiness or my successes. And I don't blame others for my failures. I had some things happen a few years ago that turned my life upside down and put me in a position where I needed to rethink my life, what it had been, and what it was now going to be. I was laid off from a job I had planned to retire from. It was in the wake of this layoff that I took stock of my personal health. And at age 59 and 60, lost 88 pounds and got my life back on track physically and emotionally. I got over thinking that I had carried that weight so long that it was too late to change, which leads me right into point number 2. Questions limited thinking, and Lori mentioned that as one of the important points. This is a big one for me as a woman. There are some old 1950s, 1960s, and even 1970s tapes that pop up and play in my head every time I start something new. And often when I try to reach beyond my comfort zone. Okay, yes, comfort zone. Let's talk about that. Most of you haven't read my books, Thinking Skinny and Reinventing New Chapters in Your Life at Any Age. One important issue I write about at one point in my life was stopping me cold. And had I not gotten past my limited thinking, I wouldn't be standing here talking to you today. That was a crippling fear of public speaking. It manifested itself early in my life, as I discovered when, as a matter of course, I took a high school speech class. You guys, I'm telling you, I made no progress that year. It served only to drive home how pervasive was this fear. I had previously not even known it was inside me. Oh sure, I knew I was shy, but this fear, this was something very new. Now, nothing earth-shattering happened in that class to make me fearful of speaking. No one humiliated me or put me down. I didn't forget my lines, and no one laughed at me. The fear was simply there, full-blown and ready to limit my life, which it did for decades after that. In recent years, once I was ready, yes, I began to question my limited thinking in this regard. Why can't I speak? What exactly am I afraid of besides forgetting something of what I want to say? So that's really the only piece of this that I'm still working on. And yes, I use notes. Whatever I need to make this as enjoyable for you as it is for me. And it is enjoyable. I'm having fun with this. I wish I would have known years ago how much fun this can really be. This takes me to point number 3. Cultivates a mindful, proactive approach. I do this in all areas of my life. I think the idea of being proactive with regard to health is the thing I'm doing most consistently these days. Now, as I mentioned before, this wasn't always true of me. There was the time in my life when I wasn't taking good care of myself and had become seriously overweight, as I mentioned. This was where the mindful approach came into play. After it was triggered by taking personal responsibility and questioning my limited thinking. They all worked together as I executed my plan for getting and staying healthy as I grew older. It's fascinating to me to see how there is so much overlap in these characteristics and how well they work with each other. Maybe this is a good spot to mention that you don't have to be a lifelong high achiever to be a thriver in your later years. I'm a perfect example of just such a late bloomer. Number 4, creates a passion-centered life. I don't know where to start with this one. There is so much. What is a passion-centered life to me? I can tell you that I am genuinely interested in so many different things that there are times I don't know what to focus on next. But an interest in a variety of things can be cultivated in your life if it doesn't come naturally to you. Once you eliminate the idea that it is too late to learn something new, there's that limited thinking issue again. You realize that if you find something interesting, why not try it? Study it, learn about it, and do it. For my generation, use a computer. Program your Blu-ray player and get it set up. You got it for Christmas last year or the year before and it's still sitting there. Get on Facebook. Write your memoir. The list goes on. And I'm sure you can think of a few things on your own. We're always learning, right? And that's why I was so interested in reading about the other thrivers in Lori's book. The exciting thing for me is how much I stand to gain by learning from these other people and by being genuinely interested in them. I have a saying, lifestyle choices are a lot like buying new clothes. We try on different things until something fits. But even then it doesn't fit forever, goes out of style, or we simply get tired of it. It's up to us to discard a bad fit as soon as it's recognized. This is one of my favorite personal quotes. And when I think about this saying, I see the connection to the 4 characteristics. Taking personal responsibility dovetails with making informed lifestyle choices. Questioning limited thinking goes hand in hand with trying on different things instead of accepting the status quo. Taking a mindful, proactive approach relates directly to discarding a bad fit in your life as soon as it's recognized and finding something new. Living a passion-centered life is symbolized by buying new clothes and trying on new things instead of being content with the old. Some of the things I write about and talk about regularly also fit right into these 4 points. I write about reshaping a healthier body and attitude and realigning personal relationships that are out of sync. This is taking personal responsibility. I write about redirecting thought patterns toward the possibilities in life. This is questioning limited thinking. I write about rediscovering the magic in your life. This is living a passion-centered life. I write about removing lifelong regrets and creating new chapters in your life. This is cultivating a mindful approach. It's been an eye-opener to me to see how all this works together, and it has helped me to be even more excited about what lies ahead. And we can all be excited about what lies ahead if we incorporate these characteristics into our own lives. Thank you for listening to me today. I encourage you to think about your own life as if it were a book and ask yourself, what chapters are yet to be written?
Thanks, Nadia. I just want to comment just briefly. What really stands out in Nadia's life story is she was laid off at a company she had intended to retire at. She was very close to retirement. It was devastating, and in her words, she said, she was devastated, hopeless for a good year until she revamped. But she didn't only just go out to get a job, she created the life of her dreams. She created her passion. She went out and did it all. Now she said, I'm not going to get a job, I'm going to go out and inspire other women to empower them to live their best life. She wrote 2 books, she's out speaking. This is what she does with her life. And so they take devastations and they turn them into something that's magnificently beautiful, not only for them, but for other people. That's what passion is. You move outside of yourself to empower others. So I just think it's so incredibly beautiful, and as you can tell, I've learned so much from thrivers, because they take the hardships in lives and they make them, somehow, they come out on the other side better. And Nadia's story is just one of them. So, thank you.